One of the most important kingdom keys is the principle of management. Write that down. We are going to talk about what the principle of management really is, because management is probably the most absent component in churches today. Think about it. The average pastor in any city graduates from a seminary or a Bible school, and yet there was never a single class on management. And then once they graduate, someone tells them, you are ready to start the ministry. This is exactly why most churches are struggling, why most ministries are broke, and why they often attract broke people. This is why so many of the men and women sitting in pews Sunday after Sunday are financially embarrassed. They can quote every scripture about wealth and prosperity, but they don't experience those scriptures. They claim that God owns the cattle on 1,000 hills, and yet they are still renting apartments they can barely afford. They declare that the wealth of the wicked is laid up for the righteous, but for the last 2,000 years, the wicked still has it. Does that not embarrass you? It embarrasses God, because the very people who are supposed to reflect His wisdom and His order are the same ones refusing to learn the most important principle of kingdom life management. If you asked me today, what should I study to prepare myself for the ministry? My answer would not be theology. It would not be homiletics or Greek or Hebrew. My answer would be study business management. Why? Because the kingdom of God is not a religion, it is a government. And governments do not function on feelings, emotions, or shouting hallelujah. Governments operate on administration. And the key to effective government is the ability to manage, delegate, and distribute resources correctly. But here is the problem. Religious people believe that God operates on emotions. They think that if they can just cry enough, sing long enough, shout hard enough, then somehow God will feel sorry for them and release blessings. And that, my friend, is why they are still broke. God does not respond to tears. God does not respond to emotions. God responds to principles. Say that again. God responds to principles. Let's look at the crisis we see in our world today. Economists and analysts all over the globe have given the same diagnosis: greed. They say the crisis was caused by greed, and they are right. But what is greed? Greed is not simply wanting more, it is the mismanagement of resources for personal benefit. Greed is when someone manipulates resources so that they become the sole beneficiary. Greed is when you take what was meant to serve many and you twist it to serve only yourself. That's greed. Jesus said something powerful about greed in Mark 7:22. He listed greed alongside malice, deceit, envy, slander, arrogance, and folly. Look at that list. Every one of them is connected. A greedy person is usually an arrogant person, and arrogance leads to foolishness. Foolishness produces deceit, and all of these, Jesus said, come from the inside, from the mind, and they make a person unclean. In Luke 12, Jesus warned, watch out, be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Notice his words, watch out. That means greed is sneaky. It can creep up on you even while you think you are holy. It can disguise itself as ambition. It can clothe itself in prayers for more blessings, but underneath it's still greed. And Jesus was clear, life does not consist in the abundance of possession. Look at the story of a man like Bernie Madoff. He had wealth, he had influence, he had everything that looked like success, but greed destroyed it all. In the end, his life was reduced to a 12 by 8 foot concrete cell. That's where greed leads you, into a prison of your own making. Now let's go deeper. Let's talk about God's dominion strategy, because this is the foundation of becoming financially wise in the kingdom. Genesis 2:4 says something that will shock you. It says that when the Lord God made the heavens and the earth, no shrub had yet appeared, no plant had sprung up. Why? Because the Lord had not yet sent rain. And why had he not sent rain? Because there was no man to work the ground. Stay with me. This verse is one of the most powerful revelations in all of Scripture. God himself withheld growth. He stopped progress. He refused to let development take place. Why? Because there was no man, no manager. Think about that. The creator of the universe deliberately held back potential until he had someone to manage it. The Hebrew word for work in that verse is eragon, which means management. God was saying, I refuse to let anything grow because I don't have a manager. He didn't say because he didn't have a singer. He didn't say because he didn't have a preacher. He said because he didn't have a manager. That revelation will change your life. When I first discovered this as a teenager, it broke me. I was poor. I was living in a small island in a wooden house raised on rocks, sleeping on a floor mat. My parents dragged me to church multiple times a week, and yet we were still poor. I got angry at God. I said, you must only love white people because you sure don't love us. But then God spoke to me. I don't make rich people or poor people. I just make people. Some become rich, some become poor. It all depends on how they manage what I give them. That truth shook me to my core. And then I read Genesis 2:4, and it all made sense. God does not release growth where there is no manager. He does not bless where there is mismanagement. He does not allow increase where there is no discipline. When God created humanity, the very first instruction he gave was not about worship, not about singing, not even about praying. The first instruction was management. In Genesis, it says that God took the man and placed him in the garden to work it and to keep it. Before Adam was given a wife, before he was given children, before there was any concept of family, there was the command to manage. That was the original assignment. To work it means to cultivate it, to bring out of it its hidden potential, and to keep it means to protect it, to preserve what has been entrusted. From the very beginning, God was teaching humanity that management is the condition for blessing. Think about this. God never gives more to someone who mismanages what they already have. He does not release increase where there is negligence. That is why so many people pray for more but receive nothing. Not because God is unfaithful, but because he cannot reward poor stewardship. He is not going to send rain where there is no seed planted, and he is not going to expand a territory if you cannot handle the little corner he already gave you. Mismanagement is the silent killer of potential. Jesus illustrated this truth in Matthew 25 when he told the story of the talents. A master entrusted his servants with different amounts, 5, 2, and 1. The ones who managed wisely multiplied what they were given, and the master rewarded them with greater authority. But the one who hid his talent, who buried it out of fear and laziness, was called wicked and lazy. And what little he had was taken away and given to the one who had managed well. The principle is clear. God does not tolerate mismanagement. He does not feel sorry for laziness, and he does not bless waste. He blesses management. And here is something that may shock you. Sometimes what looks like unanswered prayer is really God saying, I cannot give you more until you prove you can manage what I already placed in your hands. We cry out for financial breakthrough, but we do not manage the paycheck we have. We ask for promotion, but we do not manage our current responsibilities with excellence. We want God to send more people into our lives, but we do not manage our existing relationships with love and integrity. God's principle is fixed. Manage well, and then he can trust you with more. That is why Genesis 2:15 is so critical. Adam's first job was not glamorous. It was gardening. It was daily discipline, cultivation, watching over the resources of the earth. Management may not look spectacular, but it is the foundation of destiny. If you can manage the small, God will make you ruler over much. If you can be trusted with the unseen, he will expose you to the world. If you can handle the routine, he will open the extraordinary. Let me remind you again, management is not about ownership. Adam did not own the garden, God owned it. Adam was simply a steward, a caretaker of what belonged to God. In the same way, nothing you have is truly yours. Your money, your body, your relationships, your opportunities, they all belong to God, and you are simply managing them for him. That changes the way we think. It means that every wasted hour, every careless word, every neglected responsibility is not just a personal failure, it is mismanagement of God's property, and mismanagement has consequences. This is why the master in the parable was so severe with the servant who buried his talent. He called him wicked, not because he committed some scandalous sin, but because he mismanaged what was entrusted to him. Think about that. In God's eyes, mismanagement is wickedness. To waste time is wicked. To waste potential is wicked. To waste resources is wicked. God does not measure wickedness only by moral failures, but also by poor stewardship. That is why this principle is so serious. So as we reflect tonight, I want you to take this personally. What are you mismanaging right now? Is it your time? Is it your money? Is it your body? Is it your relationships? Is it your spiritual life? God is watching how you handle what you already have, and that is the test that determines your future. If you pass the test of management, the door of increase will open. If you fail, the door will remain closed no matter how much you pray. This is where we must confront a hard truth. Prayer does not substitute for management. Fasting does not substitute for management. Worship does not substitute for management. You can sing every song, you can shout every prayer, you can attend every service, but if you mismanage your life, nothing will change. God's law is unbreakable. He rewards faithful managers. That is why the scripture says, he who is faithful in little will also be faithful in much. Faithfulness in little things is the evidence God looks for before he releases greater things. And here is the continuity into what we will see next. The reason management is so important is because time and change are always moving. You cannot stop time and you cannot stop change, but you can manage how you respond to them. That management is the foundation of your destiny. And in the next part, we are going to look deeper into these two unstoppable forces, time and change, and why mastering their management is the key to your future. Every single one of us, no matter our background, our education, our nationality, or our social status, must face two forces every day of our lives. These two forces are unstoppable, they are impartial, and they affect everyone without exception. Those two powers are time and change. You cannot stop time and you cannot stop change. You can fight them, you can resist them, you can deny them, but they will continue to move with or without your cooperation. Time is moving right now as I speak. Seconds are being spent and you cannot retrieve them. Once a minute is gone, it is gone forever. That is why time is the most precious commodity in existence. You can lose money and earn it again. You can lose opportunities and perhaps regain others. But once you lose time, it is irretrievable. That is why wise people do not waste time, because to waste time is to waste life. Your life is measured by time. When you ask someone, "How old are you?" you are really asking, "How much time have you spent? And how much time might you have left?" Time is life. Change is equally unavoidable. Whether you like it or not, seasons will shift, circumstances will evolve, people will grow older, societies will transform, and opportunities will appear and disappear. Nothing remains the same forever. Change is constant. Sometimes it is welcome and exciting, and other times it is painful and disruptive, but it is always present. The real question is not whether change will come. It will. The question is, how will you manage it? Will you resist it and become bitter, or will you embrace it and grow wiser? So here is the truth. The two most difficult components in life to manage are time and change. You cannot control them, you cannot stop them, but you must learn to manage them. And your entire future depends on this management. What you are right now is the product of how you have managed your time and your changes so far. What you will become in 10 years will be the direct result of how you manage time and change from this moment forward. You are not merely a victim of circumstances, you are the result of management. Every new year that arrives is proof that time will not wait for you. Whether you are ready or not, it will come. The calendar will turn, the clock will tick, the sun will rise and set, and with every new year, change will accompany it. Some changes you expect, and some will surprise you. Some will challenge you, and others will bless you. But they are inevitable. And that means that life is really about one thing: how you handle time and how you handle change. Let me make it very simple. You are right now a product of the way you have been using your time and managing your changes. If you wasted the last year, then the fruit of that waste is what you are experiencing today. If you invested the last year wisely, then you are reaping those rewards now. The past is simply the sum of your management decisions. The future will be shaped by the same. That is why the key to your destiny is not luck, it is not chance, it is not even prayer alone, it is management. Now think about this. You cannot stop time from passing, but you can decide how you will use the hours you are given. You cannot prevent change from happening, but you can decide how you will respond to it. That is where your power lies. That is why planning becomes so critical, because planning is the tool that allows you to manage both time and change with wisdom. Without planning, time will slip through your fingers and change will overwhelm you. But with planning, time becomes productive and change becomes an opportunity. So when we enter a new year, it is not just another date on the calendar, it is a chapter in the book of your life. Each year is like a page, and the question is, what are you writing on that page? At the end of the year, you must be able to look back and ask, how did I use the time that was given to me? How did I manage the changes that came my way? Did I waste it on distractions, on habits that produced nothing, on relationships that drained me? Or did I invest it in growth, in purpose, in building something that matters? Every year is a chapter, and one day those chapters will close and your book will be finished. And here is where we need to pause and reflect deeply. When the clock strikes midnight and people wish each other Happy New Year, do not just celebrate the new, ask yourself a harder question. What did I do with the year that just ended? Did I waste precious hours? Did I allow fear to paralyze me when change came? Did I ignore opportunities? Did I bury my talent? Or did I live with intentionality, making the most of the time and embracing the changes as stepping stones toward my purpose? This is why God holds us accountable for time. Time is not just passing, it is a sacred gift. The passing of time makes us accountable to God because He gave it to us for a purpose. And with every year, with every season, we are either drawing closer to fulfilling our assignment or drifting further away. That is why we cannot afford to be careless with it. In the next part, we are going to look more closely at how the Bible describes time itself, how it sets boundaries on our lives, and why understanding that your days are numbered should change the way you live. The Bible is very clear about this reality. Our days are numbered. In the book of Job, chapter 14, verse 5, it says that man's days are determined and the number of his months is with God, and he has set limits that we cannot exceed. Think about that for a moment. Your life already has a boundary. There is an invisible calendar in heaven with your name on it. You will not live one day longer than what God has allowed. You cannot negotiate for extra days. You cannot extend your life beyond his appointed measure. That is why every single day is precious, because it is a non-renewable resource. Moses understood this, and that is why in Psalm 90 he prayed, "Teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom." Notice what he did not pray. He did not say, "Teach us to count our years." No, he said our days, because wisdom is found in recognizing the value of every single day. Years are made of days, and life is lived one day at a time. If you waste today, you are wasting a piece of your life that you will never get back. Wisdom is learning to treat each day as if it is sacred, as if it is a seed that must be planted carefully, because once it is gone, you cannot retrieve it. This is why procrastination is so dangerous. Procrastination is not just laziness, it is arrogance. It is the assumption that you are guaranteed another day, another chance, another opportunity. But the truth is that you do not know how many days are left in your account. Every day you delay, every day you put off what you know you must do, you are gambling with time you do not own. That is why the Bible says, "Today if you hear his voice, do not harden your heart." It is always today. You cannot obey God yesterday, and you cannot obey him tomorrow. You can only obey him now. When you understand that your days are numbered, it changes the way you approach life. You stop wasting time on trivial arguments. You stop holding grudges that consume your energy. You stop investing in relationships that drain your soul. You stop chasing things that will not matter in eternity. Instead, you start prioritizing purpose. You ask yourself, what must I do today to align with what God has called me to do? What must I complete now so that when my final day comes, I will not have regrets? Imagine if you woke up each morning with the awareness that today could be your last. How differently would you live? You would speak more kindly, you would forgive more quickly, you would love more deeply, you would pursue your assignment more passionately. The reality is that one day it will indeed be your last, and none of us knows when that day will be. That is why wisdom is to number our days and live each one as if it matters, because it does. This truth is not meant to make you fearful, but to make you intentional. God gives us time as a stewardship, just as he gives talents, gifts, and resources. He gives time, and he expects us to give an account of how we used it. That is why Jesus taught so many parables about servants being called to account. Time is part of what we must answer for. Did we waste it or did we invest it? Did we spend it on distractions or did we use it to serve his purposes? Now think about this carefully. When God measures your life, he does not measure it by how long you lived, but by how well you used the time you were given. There are people who live 80 years and accomplish little, and others who live 30 years and change the world. It is not the quantity of days, it is the quality of them. Jesus himself lived only 33 years on earth, but in those years he completed his assignment and fulfilled his purpose. His short life had eternal impact. That is the lesson. It is not about the length of time, but about the management of time. So as you reflect on the passing of one year and the beginning of another, ask yourself the question, how am I managing the days that God has entrusted to me? Am I numbering them with wisdom, or am I wasting them in foolishness? The difference between a life of regret and a life of fulfillment is found in how seriously you take this truth. In the next part, we are going to look at how change works together with time, how every season shifts with purpose, and why resisting change will always keep you trapped in the past instead of moving forward into destiny. Change is the twin of time. Wherever there is time, there is change, because time is what creates the movement of seasons. Nothing in your life stays the same forever. The earth itself teaches us this truth every single year. Winter gives way to spring, spring to summer, summer to autumn, and the cycle repeats. You cannot stop it, you cannot delay it, you cannot negotiate with it. Change is inevitable. The only question is, will you resist it or will you use it? One of the tragedies of life is that people often resist the very changes that were designed to move them into their destiny. We become comfortable in our habits, in our routines, in the people we know and the places we are used to. We confuse comfort with safety, and we think that staying the same will protect us. But the truth is that resisting change only traps us in the past. You cannot grow if you refuse to change. You cannot step into your future while holding on to yesterday. Ecclesiastes 3 tells us that to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under heaven. Notice the connection: seasons, time, and purpose. Seasons change because time moves forward and purpose unfolds in those changing seasons. That means change is not your enemy. It is the very process God uses to reveal His purpose in your life. Every new season brings new responsibilities, new opportunities, and new challenges. And if you do not embrace the change, you will miss the purpose. Think about the butterfly. Before it can fly, it must first be a caterpillar. Before it can transform, it must enter the cocoon. The cocoon is uncomfortable, dark, and restrictive. It looks like the end, but in reality, it is the transition. Without the struggle in that cocoon, the wings of the butterfly will never develop the strength to fly. The same is true for you. The season you call uncomfortable may actually be the process that is preparing you for your next level. If you run from it, you will remain weak, but if you endure it, you will emerge with wings. The Bible is full of stories of people who had to face change before they could fulfill their destiny. Abraham had to leave his father's house and his homeland before he could become the father of nations. Joseph had to be torn away from his family and endure slavery and prison before he could rise to the palace. Moses had to leave the luxury of Pharaoh's palace and spend 40 years in the desert before he could lead Israel to freedom. Every great destiny requires great change. The problem is that many of us pray for God to change our circumstances without realizing that He first wants to change us. Change begins inside before it manifests outside. You cannot step into a new season with an old mindset. That is why Paul says in Romans 12, "Be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Transformation is the process of internal change that prepares you for external change. If your mind remains stuck in the past, your life will remain stuck with it, no matter how much time passes. So instead of fearing change, begin to expect it, anticipate it, prepare for it. Ask God, what is this season designed to teach me? What part of my character must grow? What old habit must I release? What new discipline must I embrace? When you start asking those questions, change becomes your ally, not your enemy. You begin to see it as a bridge, not a barrier. Some of you are frustrated right now because things that used to work are no longer working. The methods that once brought success now bring nothing. The relationships that once gave life now drain you. That is not failure, it is a signal. It is God's way of telling you that the season has shifted. What worked in winter does not work in summer. What kept you alive in one stage will hold you back in the next. You must discern the times and adjust accordingly. This is why prayer and sensitivity to the Spirit are so vital, because not all change is obvious. Sometimes the shift happens quietly, and only those who are attentive recognize it. Those who ignore the signals end up holding on to what God has already left behind. That is why Israel had to follow the cloud in the wilderness. When the cloud moved, they moved. When the cloud rested, they rested. The presence of God determined the seasons, and wisdom was to move with Him. So ask yourself right now, what changes am I resisting? What season is God trying to bring me into that I have been afraid to embrace? Am I clinging to the familiar because it feels safe? Or am I stepping into the unknown by faith, trusting that God is leading me forward? The difference between stagnation and growth, between frustration and fulfillment, is found in how you respond to change. In the next part, we will go deeper into how your attitude towards change determines whether you experience progress or remain stuck, and how embracing change with faith and discipline positions you to maximize both time and purpose. Your attitude toward change is what separates people who move forward from those who remain stuck. Change by itself does not guarantee growth. Only the right response to change produces progress. You see, two people can face the same situation, the same transition, even the same crisis, yet one emerges stronger while the other collapses. The difference is not in the event itself, but in how they choose to respond. When Israel left Egypt, every one of them experienced the same wilderness. They all saw the same Red Sea open. They all walked under the same cloud. They all ate the same manna, yet most of them died in the wilderness while only a few entered the promised land. Why? Because of their attitude. They complained instead of trusting. They remembered Egypt instead of embracing the future. They let fear control them instead of faith. Change was given to all of them, but only those with the right spirit could benefit from it. You must understand this. Change will expose your heart. It reveals whether you truly trust God or only trust your comfort. It shows whether you are motivated by faith or by fear. If your first reaction to change is panic, resistance, or complaint, then you will remain paralyzed. But if your reaction is prayer, discernment, and action, then change will become a platform for your promotion. Let me tell you something. Faith is not needed when everything is familiar. Faith is activated in transition. Faith is what allows you to step into what you cannot yet see, to walk where you have never walked before, to believe when nothing around you makes sense. That is why Hebrews 11 reminds us that by faith Abraham obeyed and went, even though he did not know where he was going. Faith is not comfortable, it is courageous. One of the greatest mistakes people make is waiting for perfect conditions before they embrace change. They say, when everything is clear, when all the resources line up, when I feel ready, then I will move. But change never works like that. If you wait until everything is perfect, you will wait forever. Perfect conditions are an illusion. Progress belongs to those who take steps in the midst of uncertainty, trusting that God will provide clarity as they move. This is why discipline is critical. Discipline is the ability to act on what you know, even when you do not feel like it. Change often requires leaving behind what is easy in order to embrace what is necessary. It may mean cutting certain habits, breaking free from unhealthy relationships, or committing to new routines that stretch you. Discipline is the bridge between your decision and your destiny. Without it, change will frustrate you instead of transform you. Think of Joshua. He had to lead an entire nation after Moses, a man the people revered as God's chosen prophet. That transition could have paralyzed him, yet God told him, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." Notice that God did not promise him an easy journey, only his presence. The courage to embrace change comes not from knowing the details, but from knowing God is with you in every step. Some of you right now are facing doors that God has opened, but fear has kept you standing still. You are waiting for confirmation, but deep down you already know the season has shifted. You already feel the nudge of the Spirit saying, "Move forward." The longer you delay, the more frustrated you will feel, because your spirit knows what your fear is denying. Obedience is the key. The moment you step out, strength will meet you, provision will meet you, clarity will meet you, but none of that comes until you move. Change also requires perspective. If you view every transition as a loss, you will always resist it. But if you view it as an opportunity for growth, you will embrace it. Perspective transforms pain into preparation, delays into training, and obstacles into opportunities. Joseph looked at his brothers who betrayed him and said, "You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good." That is perspective. He understood that the change forced on him was not the end, but the process that positioned him for greatness. Let me put it this way. Change is never convenient, but it is always purposeful. God never allows a shift in your life without a reason. Sometimes he closes doors not to punish you, but to protect you. Sometimes he removes people not to leave you lonely, but to free you from limitations. Sometimes he shakes your environment because he knows you would never leave on your own. What feels like loss may actually be the first step toward gain. So the real question is not will change come, because it will. The real question is, how will I respond? Will you fight it, fear it, and resent it? Or will you embrace it, learn from it, and grow through it? The choice is always yours. In the next part, we will uncover the practical strategies for positioning yourself to benefit from change, so that instead of being a victim of shifting seasons, you become a manager of them, maximizing every opportunity time brings into your life. If you want to benefit from change instead of being broken by it, you must learn practical strategies that position you to manage every season wisely, because change is not just something you experience, it is something you can prepare for, something you can maximize. Those who succeed in life are not those who try to avoid change, but those who manage it with vision and discipline. The first strategy is to stay anchored in purpose. Purpose is your compass when everything around you shifts. If you do not know why you exist, every change will confuse you. You will waste energy chasing distractions instead of moving in alignment. But when you are clear about your purpose, change cannot shake you. It can only shape you. Think of a tree with deep roots. The winds may blow, the seasons may shift, but the tree stands because its roots go deep. Purpose is those roots. It keeps you stable while everything else changes. The second strategy is adaptability. Adaptability does not mean compromise. It means flexibility. It means you can adjust your methods without abandoning your mission. It means you can change your approach without losing your identity. Paul said, "I have become all things to all people, that I might by all means save some." He never lost his purpose, but he adapted his methods to the season. Many people fail because they cling to outdated ways of doing things. What worked yesterday may not work today. If you refuse to adapt, you become irrelevant. But if you learn to adapt, you remain effective in every season. The third strategy is continual learning. Change demands growth, and growth demands learning. You cannot face new challenges with old knowledge. That is why wise leaders are always readers, always students, always hungry for wisdom. Proverbs says, in all you're getting, get understanding. Every new season is an invitation to learn something new. Some of you are frustrated because you are asking God for promotion, but you have not prepared yourself with the knowledge required for that promotion. If you do not equip yourself, change will expose your weakness instead of releasing your potential. The fourth strategy is stewardship. Every season carries resources, time, opportunities, relationships, experiences. If you manage them well, change will reward you. If you waste them, change will punish you. Remember, God never promotes wastefulness. He only blesses good management. Jesus said, whoever can be trusted with little can also be trusted with much. If you prove faithful with the season you are in right now, God will trust you with the next. But if you complain, mismanage, or neglect it, you will stay where you are, no matter how much you pray for breakthrough. The fifth strategy is community. Change is not meant to be navigated alone. Seasons of transition can be confusing, and isolation makes it worse. That is why God places us in relationships, mentors to guide us, peers to support us, and those we can pour into. Ecclesiastes says, two are better than one, because if one falls, the other can help him up. The enemy wants you isolated during change, because isolation magnifies fear. But when you walk with wise counsel, you gain perspective, encouragement, and accountability that keep you moving forward. The sixth strategy is patience. Change takes time. Just because the season has shifted does not mean the results will be immediate. Farmers understand this. When they plant a seed, they do not expect fruit the next morning. They water, they wait, they nurture, and they trust the process. Many people abort their destiny because they expect instant results and give up too soon. Do not confuse delay with denial. God is not slow, He is precise. His timing is perfect. Your job is to stay faithful until the harvest comes. The seventh strategy is gratitude. Gratitude keeps your heart open in the middle of transition. It shifts your focus from what you lost to what you gained, from what ended to what is beginning. Gratitude is not denial of pain, it is recognition of growth. Paul said, in everything give thanks, for this is the will of God. Gratitude turns change into worship. It keeps you from bitterness and positions you for joy, even in uncertain time. These strategies do not remove change, but they transform how you experience it. Instead of being swept away, you begin to ride the waves. Instead of fearing what's next, you anticipate it. Instead of clinging to the past, you embrace the future with confidence. So let me ask you, which of these strategies do you need to practice right now? Do you need to clarify your purpose? Do you need to become more adaptable? Do you need to humble yourself and start learning again? Do you need to manage your time, your relationships, your resources more faithfully? Or perhaps you need to build community, practice patience, or cultivate gratitude. Whatever it is, start now, because change is not waiting for you to be ready. It is happening whether you prepare or not. In the next part, we will bring all of these principles together and see how time, change, management, and purpose align to create a life of impact, and how your response today can determine the legacy you leave tomorrow. We have walked through the principles of time, change, purpose, and management. We have seen that time cannot be stopped and change cannot be avoided. We have learned that your entire life is shaped by how you use your time and how you respond to the changes that come your way. And now we arrive at the final challenge, the question that each of us must answer. What will you do with the time you have left? It is not enough to simply agree with what you've heard. It is not enough to nod your head, take notes, and then return to the same habits, the same distractions, the same procrastination. Change requires action. Transformation requires decision. Nothing shifts in your life until you decide that it must. Many people are waiting for God to change their circumstances, when in reality, God is waiting for them to change their priorities. He has already given you the gift of time, the opportunities of change, the wisdom of His Word, and the strength of His Spirit. What more do you need? The next step is yours. Every year, every month, every day is another chance to align yourself with His will and to maximize what has been placed in your hands. Think about this carefully. Your life is not measured by how long you live, but by what you accomplish with the time you are given. Jesus lived only 33 years, yet He changed the course of human history forever. Paul said, I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. He did not boast about how many years he lived. He spoke about finishing his assignment. Your life will not be remembered by its length, but by its impact. So do not waste another moment. Stop saying, one day I'll get serious. One day I'll start that vision. One day I'll change. One day is not a date on the calendar. One day never comes. The only day you have is today, and today is enough if you use it wisely. Do not let fear of change paralyze you. Remember, change is not your enemy, it is your ally. It is the environment in which God develops your potential. Change is proof that you are still alive, still growing, still capable of becoming more than you are right now. Embrace it, manage it, and let it push you into your next season. Do not let time slip through your fingers. Every hour is either invested or wasted. Every day is either building your future or burying it. Every year is either a testimony of growth or a record of regret. You cannot control how much time you are given, but you can control how you use it. If you want to live without regret, then begin today to make every moment count. Do not settle for survival. You were not created just to pay bills, go through routines, and hope for a peaceful retirement. You were sent to this earth with an assignment from God Himself. Your life has meaning, your days have value, and your seasons have purpose. If you discover that purpose, manage your time wisely, and embrace the changes along the way, then nothing can stop you from fulfilling your destiny. As you step into the future, make a decision that this year will not be like the last one. Refuse to drift, refuse to waste, refuse to let time and change manage you. Instead, rise up and take responsibility. Become intentional, set priorities, create a plan, walk in discipline, surround yourself with the right people. Keep learning, be adaptable, and above all, stay rooted in purpose. Because when your time is over, when your months are finished, when you stand before God to give an account, the question will not be how comfortable you were, how entertained you were, or how popular you were. The question will be, did you finish what you were sent to do? Did you fulfill the assignment for which you were born? Did you manage the time and the change that were entrusted to you? So let this be the moment when you decide to live differently. Do not wait for tomorrow. Do not wait for the new year, the next opportunity, or the perfect conditions. Start now. Take responsibility for your time. Embrace the changes that come your way. Live with vision, live with discipline, and live with faith. And when your journey is complete, may you be able to say with confidence and peace, not that you survived, not that you endured, but that you finished, that you did what you were sent to do, that your life mattered, that you managed your time and your changes in such a way that eternity itself was touched by your obedience. This is the power of planning. This is the power of preparation. This is the power of managing time and change. And this is the invitation to you today to live with purpose, to embrace every season, and to finish strong.